How to make a seasoning salt, herbal salt, vegetable, mineral salt. That's what I'm going to show you how to do today. And this is all as a direct result of my harvest of celery. If you've been following along, I've been posting updates about my hydroponics system that I grew. It kind of sits on the edge of my property on the side of the alley, which gets very little traffic. And so it was the perfect spot to kind of reclaim some ground that's, kind of somewhat on my property line, somewhat, on the alley, taking advantage of that, an area that got just too much a sun exposure, wind exposure. Anything I'd planted there previously really, was challenged by the elements, and most notably would definitely kind of dry out. So anyways, I had a friend help me set up this hydroponic system that I fed almost exclusively from rainwater, and that I would capture in tanks and then just cycle through the system. And I kept adding nutrients. I'd add like kelp powder, compost tea, all kinds of stuff. This is my second year doing it, and turned out pretty well. So this is the celery harvest, of which there's a lot of leaf matter here, and so we're gonna eat the stalks, but all these leaves are still very nutritious. And I could obviously chop those up, put that into like a vegetable stock, into bone broths, meat stocks, veggie stocks, anything like that. There's still a lot of flavor and a lot of nutrition in those celery leaves. But what we're actually going to do is we're going to make a salt. And I've done a lot of herbal salts, like a rosemary salt. You can do with a lot of aromatic herbs like rosemary, so that whenever you're, like a finishing salt, you're preparing, you're garnishing, you've got a salt that could be colorful, like with wild roses. So it could be this beautiful pink rose salt, or it could be green from spruce tips, from rosemary. I've done a number of different ones. And this one's actually going to be celery salt. Now, we know mostly celery salt from, typically it's celery seed that's added in that has its own flavors. But this is actually going to be from the greens. And there's two different ways to create a herbal salt. One way is to, as I've done with spruce tips and rosemary, is to take those fresh herbs and then basically cover them in salt. And what happens is that the salt basically desiccates it. It draws out all the moisture. And as it's drawing out the moisture, it also pulls with it a lot of the aromatics. So in the case of rosemary, like that salt just gets infused with the rosemary essential oils. And then you have the option of either just straining out the then dried, rosemary leaves or spruce tips, whatever it is that you've used, or you can kind of like grind it all up together. Now, since I have literally so much of this, leaf matter, what I'm gonna do, that would be way too much salt to basically cover all that and desiccate it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna first dry these leaves, and I've actually been doing this all summer. The celery's just been going and going and going. And so as we pick a stalk, we don't eat, you can eat these leaves, but we're mainly eating the stalks, right? And then so we leave these the leaf tips, and then we've been dehydrating them. So I've got quite a pile of already dehydrated leaves. So from the dried leaves, I'll then put that into a blender, whisk them down into a powder, and then mix that with a salt. And I suppose I could take that and have it added to, broths, just as literally a celery leaf powder. But we're thinking it'll be really nice for the flavor, as well as the nutrition, the minerals combined with a salt. So that's what we're gonna do. And then, have that year round as kind of like a seasoning mineral salt. Maybe I'll even add a bit of kelp powder to it to just kind of broaden and bring up the minerals. Sea vegetables, love them, for their benefits, their nutrients, but I have to admit, I don't eat sea vegetables all the time, every day. So, adding them into things like your ferments, also your salts, is a way that, at least for me anyways, I can get sea vegetables in every day. I'm not reaching for them as a part of my everyday food, but I am reaching for salt. And where it's appropriate, especially with the right flavor, out of that, and then boom, I'm getting in all those minerals from the kelp as well. So hopefully that gives you some ideas. And gosh, here it is. This is autumn I don't know when you're watching this, but we've just had an absolutely beautiful, epic autumn. I mean, I'm almost sweating just doing this video out here in the sun. And this kind of October 19th is the day to be exact. And it's amazing out. So yeah, still finishing off things in the garden. There's still flowers. I've got some yarrow to pick. Yeah, extended season. So hope you're doing well. Hope you're getting ready in this transition, this fall time, getting your garden in order and pantry in order for winter time and that nourishment to extend us through the winter.